Chris Shade at Quicksilver Scientific. Now, I have actually had the good fortune of trying the product based on some of the pharmacokinetic data today, and was surprised at how fast it worked, frankly. I'm used to doing, a little bit of CBD oil and going with my doses and having it hit me within 20 minutes roughly with something that's under the tongue. I took 2 sprays under the tongue, not realizing that his 2 sprays was like, 6 sprays from what I've normally done, and within 20 minutes I was asleep on the sofa quite happily. So here's Chris, and he will tell you all about it himself.
Hello everyone, thanks for having me today. Actually this lecture I just gave on a webinar about an hour and a half ago, so I'm representing it down here. Joe Cohen knows me, and he knows some of the work that I do through Quicksilver Scientific, which is my company in Lafayette, Colorado. I come from the functional and integrative medicine world, where I design products and protocols and testing for various chronic illnesses, mostly originally revolving around toxicities. My PhD was environmental mercury chemistry, and I developed testing for separating different forms of mercury. And then with that, I had to come up with solutions, and I had to get something called glutathione into the body to help get metals out of the body. And to do that, I had to have some sneaky techniques for getting things in. So glutathione was broken down in the GI tract, so you're either going to inject it or nebulize it or do a transdermal. And then I came to these products called liposomes, or liposomes more formally, but everybody started calling them liposomes, so we'll call them that. And liposomes are part of a family of lipid-based deliveries where you're using surfactants like phospholipids to make little nano oil droplets or little oil bags that can hold a payload, and they can be so small to dissolve right through the oral mucosa into the bloodstream. And that's why she said you could feel these things so quickly. And so we'll show you some pharmacokinetic data comparing this sublingual form. See, people throw around sublingual all the time. And the question is the product really designed to go sublingual, or is it just because it's fat soluble you get a little bit through there? We're talking about getting a lot through it. So when you see us compare to GW Pharma's uptake, we're going to show you 6-fold higher bioavailability than GW Pharma's IntraOral spray. So we're trying to design really high absorption products. So like I said, I just gave this talk, and I'm introducing functional medicine doctors into the use of cannabinoids, now really just into the use of CBD. Now, one of the things that we'll probably let Joe speak a little bit about his experience with these products, but when Joe Cohen started using these products, he thought that CBD was just like a mixer to go with the vodka. It could never be the standalone. It could never be the central character in the play. And a lot of that was just bioavailability issues. You'll see when you get these very high bioavailabilities that CBD can stand alone. And for your patients that don't want to have psychoactive effects, it's going to be a standalone. Now, we're not with the full range of products in Colorado yet. Of course, we're a Colorado company. We release all the THC into California first, but hey, go figure, it just happens that way. But you can get the CBD products now, and we'll have the THC-based ones soon. So, since I just talked to functional medicine doctors, there is a little section on the endocannabinoid system, which you guys don't really need. But one thing I'd like to say, since I'm trying to coach you into thinking about CBD use on its own and what it can do on its own, you guys all know about CB1 and CB2 receptors, CB1 being the more central nervous system receptors, CB2 being more immune-based in the peripheral organs. And you probably all know that CBD doesn't really act on the receptors. So though Joe said that there's a paper recently where they found some interaction with the receptors, but it's known as a weak agonist of the CBD, or of the CB1 and CB2 receptors. Now, there's other receptors now. They're finding these transient receptor potential vanilloid receptors. It's this long story there, but these are involved in pain modulation in the periphery. And I think you'll find that CBD does interact with these more. But CBD is known more for its ability to modulate where the other cannabinoids are going, whether they're going CB1 or CB2. You all have experienced that adding CBD into a THC product makes it less psychoactive because it's redirecting the THC from the CB1 receptors to CB2 receptors so that there's a split of its action into these two functions, one being a little bit more central nervous system mediated, the other one being immune. And thus, you know, your go-to for, say, an autoimmune condition would be a one-to-one. You're engaging the CBD to help guide where the THC goes. But it's not just modulating where the THC goes, it's modulating where the endocannabinoids go. And so, of course, you know, you've got anandamide from cocoa, the bliss molecule, then you've got the far more prevalent 2-arachidonoglycerol, present in breast milk, animal milk, but that you make a whole lot of. So Ethan Russo wrote the original seminal paper on endocannabinoid deficiency in chronic illnesses like fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, and possibly in relation to neurodegenerative processes like Alzheimer's, is that what it's called? I forget. Alzheimer's, that was a joke. Parkinson's, MS, and recently there was great work on CBD blocking amyloid plaque formation. I'll show you data on it blocking the inflammatory aspects of amyloid plaque because what I lecture on most with CBD action is its ability to block neuroinflammation, regardless of whether there's THC or any endocannabinoids present. Its ability to stop neuroinflammation is independent of all other cannabinoids. So let's skip through that. So how does CBD work? I just said it's going to regulate where endocannabinoids and THC goes, but it also has a direct upregulation on anti-inflammatory genes and downregulation on pro-inflammatory genes. That's a very important part of its process in holistically getting people well. Now, a big part of it is effect on the endocannabinoid tone. This is why it works long range. It works short range by patching neurological instability. We're going to talk about glutamate receptors in the brain. You've got GABA and glutamate as most of your neurotransmitter symphony, and they're yin-yang. You know, glutamate is sympathetic fight-or-flight responses. It's also responsible for memory and good things. But when it dominates the play, that leads to instability in the glutamate receptors, which leads to first anxiety, then brain fog from a free radical cascade that comes off of that, and then into cycles of anxiety and depression when you're looking at its effect on seizures. It's because it's turning the tone back towards GABA. It's supporting the GABA side while bringing down the glutamate side. Any of these people that come to you with like anxiety and brain fog and fatigue, those are related to neuroinflammatory conditions, and CBD is fantastic at that. But CBD also tones the endocannabinoid system, one, by increasing synthesis of 2-arachidonoglycerol, and two, by blocking the FAV, the fatty acid amide hydrolase, is that what it's called? Blocking the breakdown of anandamide. So all neurotransmitters, you make them, you destroy them. And so here we're going to block the destruction of anandamide so it pools, so we have a higher pool of it, and we're going to stimulate the production of 2-arachidonoglycerol. So I'd say that in the immediate context, this CBD will quench the neuroinflammation, it'll support GABA, it'll turn up antioxidant functions and neuroprotective functions, but in the long range, it's supporting the endocannabinoid tone. And, you know, I've always read this, but having been through taking it for a long period of time and having people on it, I'm just thrilled with the effects on it. I didn't understand how powerful it was until we really started getting this out to the functional medicine community. So I want to talk to you now about lipid-based deliveries, and it's important that you understand them because you're going to see a lot of them come on the market. You're going to see a lot of people selling liposomal CBD or nanoliposomal CBD or nanoparticle this and nanoparticle that, And it's easy to throw around terms like nano. Nano sounds cool, it's small, but it's hard to make a stable, successful nanoparticle. When you do it, it is fantastic. And when you don't do it right, it is just a mixed up bag of crap. And you might as well have just stirred it all up yourself instead of paying so much money for it. But fortunately, there's a lot of visual cues around how to judge them. So the basis of making these systems is using phosphatidylcholine, choline, which is extracted from lecithin. It can be from soy or sunflower lecithin, but we isolate these phospholipids, and these are the same things that make up your cell membranes. You'll recognize that bilayer arrangement that is present in the cell membrane. And when we mix these into a water solution, they form these spherical vessels which entrap some water in the center, and in their membrane they have an oil-soluble compound supporting characteristic. Now, we're going to move into differentiating between different lipid nanoparticles because we're going to talk about this water-cored one being a liposome for holding water-soluble nutrients like a B12 or vitamin C or glutathione. Whereas if we just put oil in the center with a monolayer, that would be called a nanoemulsion. I have a couple of pictures of that. One of the reasons people like liposomes is their increased bioavailability. Now, part of that is getting into circulation. We're going to show you that we make these things small enough to go right through the oral mucosa into circulation. But the second part of bioavailability is its ability to get into cells. I guess the third part in our case is its ability to get across the blood-brain barrier. But in cells, the liposomes, the phospholipids in them will fuse with the cell membrane, and there's a couple different mechanisms by which these are taken inside the cell, and you have advanced delivery inside the cell. So bioavailability, 1, getting into the body, 2, getting in at a cellular level and affecting change. Now, the easiest way to create characterization for these particles is by size. And when they're first made, there are what are called multilamellar vesicles. And I'm sorry, these look like they're the same size, but picture the multilamellar vesicle being very large in comparison to the LUV, the LUV, is large unilamellar vesicle, and then much smaller than the small unilamellar vesicle. This is what we want. We want this 20 to 100 nanometer size. And when I show you a product made that way, you'll see it's clear. You see right through, it's not clear, it's transparent. It'll be lightly yellow colored, you'll see right through it. That's because the particles in there are smaller than the wavelengths of light and they just sail right past it. Now I'll show you a similar composition, but a larger size particle, and it'll look like cream or milk. So you'll be able to look at these and distinguish whether they're truly nanoliposome or nanoparticle. So I showed you that. I was showing you vesicles that look like this, that had a water center. But in the case of cannabinoids, we're actually doing what would more accurately be called a nanoemulsion, where there's a droplet of oil here stabilized by a ring of surfactants. Now here it looks like they're all phospholipids, but in reality you're going to mix phospholipids with a couple of other surfactants to make a very stable particle. You might have other essential oils or terpenes in the mix as well to make a nice stable particle. The importance of size of these things being small is that the small particles are taken up at a much more rapid rate. This is a measure of uptake in the cells, and you can this was into a cell culture called a CACO2 cell, which is an intestinal model cell. And if you look at these black bars, this was incubation of a fluorescent molecule in a liposome made in different sizes. So this was a larger liposome, it's 236 nanometers, and you go through to a 97, 79, 64, 50 nanometer liposome. And as you go smaller and smaller, you get higher and higher fluorescence, because the small particles penetrate into the cell at a rapid rate. And so much so that there was a 34-fold increase in absorption between this 200 nanometer liposome and a 64 nanometer liposome. Now, when we're doing cannabinoids, the particles are more like 20 or 30 nanometers. We can make those even smaller. So small is important. Let me skip through to showing a couple of liposomes and what they look like at different sizes. That is our glutathione. And is everybody a cannabis practitioner of some sort? No? Patients here too? Okay. Well, the practitioners can all go onto the Quicksilver Scientific website and you can register for accounts. You can buy all of our different supplements, not just the CBD. But this is glutathione. It's an antioxidant, anti-aging molecule. You see it's clear all the way through. This is a 70 nanometer particle, and you can see right through it. That's the size range you need for absorption. These are competing products, and you see this one kind of looks like cream, and this is like yellow cream. This has some B vitamins in it, which makes it more yellow. But when we centrifuge it or put it under gravity, we see this cream layer forming at the top. This is instability. So even if you don't have a centrifuge, you can take any of these products and put them in a clear glass, like a tall, thin shot glass. Watch what they do overnight. If you see oil coming to the top, that means it's unstable. If you can't see through it, it means it's somewhere in the 200 to 500 nanometer range, really big. That's in the uptake diagrams, that's in the range that doesn't really absorb. You should be able to see right through it, and it should not change when you leave it out overnight. It does not require shaking. We can skip through these. These were some for our doctors. These are the size ranges. That's a glutathione at 70 nanometers. And this was size ranges for these other products. You see, these are, you can't read that, but these are 300 nanometer products. So in the size range, you want to be 100 and below to get high uptake, and that's where you go clear. That's how you can look at these products and distinguish them. These were just some others. That's our vitamin C versus another vitamin C. This was a resveratrol and a CoQ10 versus another product where all these things fall to the ground. So just to show you that these do absorb fast when you get these kind of particle dynamics. This is vitamin B12. We have a B12. That's always a good go-along for anybody on cannabis medicine. Try to keep them more alert and alive during the day. And this was a competitor's sublingual. You'll see this is minutes here after a dose, and that's a change in plasma B12. So with the competitor's sublingual, you see between 50 and 60 minutes it goes into the blood. That's not sublingual. Sublingual dynamics are very, very fast. Here you see our first time point on this one. You're really high. You've got a 250 point jump in the blood, and at the max you have a very high area under the curve from doing a sublingual liposome. This is a kinetic study where you're looking at the percent of the load versus minutes. And with the intraoral or sublingual liposomes, in 4 minutes you have 20% of the load in already. 15 minutes you're at 35%, and then around 45 minutes you have 60–70% of that load in already. What you're seeing is that this is there's two legs here. This is true sublingual or intraoral delivery, and then the rest is swallowed and absorbed in the GI tract. So you're going to see a similar type of thing when we look at the cannabinoid stuff. So cannabinoid, I mean CBD, I call it a NeuroAdaptogen for this ability to stabilize processes in the brain. I'll show you some of that data a little bit later. The Colorado hemp oil is coming from Folium. It's grown in Colorado. It's got a nice entourage mix in it. It's got 6 milligrams per ml. Those pump bottles like that, they squirt out 1/2 ml at a time, which is 3 milligrams. Now that may not seem like a lot. Now I just had Stuart Titus at our lab last week, the head of hemp meds. Everybody does hemp meds, and he took 6 milligrams, and he just, Jesus, man, that would take 10 times as much to get that effect. You know, he's very impressed by how fast that happens. So, this is the sizing on this kind of a cannabinoid. It's a little bit under 20 nanometers, very rapid uptake. All right, so here's some of the products out there that are saying that they're a liposomal CBD. That one comes in a little black bottle, out of Boulder. And when we centrifuged it, it claimed to be a liposome. It was using phospholipids xanthan gum, which is used in the food industry whenever you can't make a stable emulsion. It makes it so thick that the oil and water don't separate in front of you, so you get the illusion that it's stable. And we put it under a centrifuge. There's the xanthan gum, there's the phospholipids, there's all the CBD oil. It was never, it's not even a bad particle, it was never a particle in the first place. It was never an emulsion. And there's our CBD clear top to bottom in the size range that you want. So here's uptake now. And we're comparing this to GW Pharma. Everybody knows GW Pharma, Sativex, and so this was Sativex. It was a 1-to-1 CBD THC, and now here I'm just might as well just jump to the other. Well, let's do this. It's a little easier to see. That's their CBD data from their intraoral spray, 10 milligrams. That's the blood levels you got over the time you got. That's ours for 5 milligrams, half the dose. 3 times the peak, 6-fold higher bioavailability. You see 20 minutes, you have a really relevant amount. By 40 minutes, you have about 60–70% of your blood load in. This is really crucial when you're dosing, especially when you're dosing THC-based stuff. Knowing that you have enough and when to redose. All the edibles are very difficult to manage, very difficult to control. Every pump is giving you exactly 3 milligrams plus or minus 5%. And you're going to have the result of the uptake in 20 to 40 minutes. You'll know exactly how much you need. This was done, this is the same thing, but we did do it with a 1-to-1 CBD THC. So when these products are available to you, you have the same, even higher bioavailability of the THC. That was the GW Pharma data. They got better THC bioavailability because it is naturally more bioavailable. We also have a capsular format, and I don't have the data on here, but the capsular format was almost as close as the sublingual. The difference is it took at least 60 minutes to come out. But it's the same thing. It's nanoparticles in a capsule for those people that don't like to test. They don't like your taste things. So I want to talk a little bit now to wrap up about neuroinflammation and neurotoxicity. This is super important, and this is where, to me, in my world, where I come from, this is where cannabinoids really shine. I come from a world where mold toxicity is a huge thing, Lyme disease is a huge thing, mercury toxicity is a huge thing. Any combination of environmental toxins affecting people along with GI dysbiosis, maybe parasitosis. And neuroinflammation is a massive, massive part of that. In neuroinflammation, you have immune molecules that are supposed to be outside the brain called astrocytes, and they get into the brain and they activate what are called glial cells. Glial cells, once they've been irritated by this astrocyte, change their shape and they start releasing pro-inflammatory neurotoxic elements. And what happens is a downward spiral that's happening between the activation of the glial cells releasing pro-inflammatory cytokines and free radicals like peroxynitrate, those going and irritating the neurons getting pissed off and firing back a couple other molecules which repiss off that's a technical term, repiss off the glial cells. And this whole thing, smack you, you smack me, just keeps going on. Now there's a couple ways to enter into this morass, and you can enter in through inflammatory triggers like lipopolysaccharides. They're little parts of dead bacteria that get into circulation. They get into circulation when you have leaky gut. So that's bacteria from your gut getting into circulation, causing brain fog and neuroinflammatory issues. Chronic infections like UTI infections, systemic parasites, nasal infections, jaw infections, they all bring endotoxin in. There's a couple different chemicals which create an inflammatory trigger on the glia. Here they have paraquat, rotenone, which are old pesticides. Or you can come in from the neuron angle and have a toxin affect the neurons. So that's usually happening through the glutamate receptors. So when they talk about excitotoxins, like they talk about monosodium glutamate being an excitotoxin, because it gets this thing jumping around and it gets it all hyperactive and it initiates this cascade. So some of the things that can come in and initiate it from the glutamate level would be mercury, glyphosate, which is Roundup, is the herbicide is well known to do that. Mold toxins are well known to do that. Toxins from Lyme disease and the co-infections. Dysbiotic toxins. That's why I know Joe Cohen, when he's working on people, is always working to clean up gut health. If you want to get them stable and healthy, you have to work on a GI level as well as a systemic and a neurological level. All that stuff has to come together at the same time. Now, the beauty of cannabis medicine, and especially CBD, is that ability to increase the endocannabinoid tone. And the more we understand the endocannabinoid system, the more we see it's the glue. It's the neuroendoimmune glue. It's gluing together the neurotransmitters, the hormones, and the immune molecules so they're not flipping end over end like they do in chronic disease, where your immune system is attacking your food but not the viruses that are living in you. Your hormones are flipped over. You got more estrogen than testosterone as a man, and you got it the other way around as a woman. The endocannabinoid system is bringing harmony into that. So how many things really affect the glutamate receptors? Here we have, this is glyphosate, the Roundup. This is a glutamate excitotoxin, so that would be a target for using CBD on. So here's some of the data around CBD and what it does do. CBD in vivo blunts beta amyloid-induced neuroinflammation by suppressing these molecules. These are the ones that are coming out of the glia and irritating and activating the neurons. So CBD is blocking the cycle at this level. Incidentally, I had a woman in our lab today who runs an institute in Florida who was on the original team that discovered beta amyloid plaque as a major causative factor in Alzheimer's. And we're going to be doing research together on various cannabinoids and, well, mostly CBD because they're in Florida, but CBD mixed with different nutraceuticals in order to best calm neuroinflammation. So here we have decreased glial reactivity, that's the glial cells being reactive, involved in the antipsychotic effect of cannabidiol. Neuroprotective antioxidants from marijuana, talking about the NMDA receptors, the ability to damp this here. And incidentally, when we work with CBD alone with so many people because we work internationally and that's all we can do, but in the places where we are allowed to use some THC, I'll often look at 2 CBD to 1 THC or 3 CBD to 1 THC on up to 1-to-1 to create even more neurological stability. And eventually you get into too much THC and I see it go the other way around. It doesn't. You don't really get that stability. It has to be CBD dominant to really do that stability. And as a true adaptogen, it should bring up down, it should bring down up. And in this case, they don't have the abstract here, but in this case, the NMDA receptors were hypoactive. They weren't active enough. If they're hypoactive, you're going to have memory problems. And CBD is bringing up that activity to normal. So I do have one other part to talk to you about and show you some stuff about, and that's around gene upregulation. So I work in the detoxification world, and I'm always trying to turn up genes that use glutathione to bind onto toxins and then move them out of the system. And they're part of a big set of genes that are antioxidant cytoprotection genes. They're often called chemoprotective genes. And there's a trigger called NRF2 that if this is in the cell and that circles the nucleus, the NRF2 is outside and certain plant compounds trigger it to go into the nucleus and turn up a whole family of chemoprotection genes at one time. So we're usually trying to use chemicals that induce this effect when we're doing metal detoxification. Things like lipoic acid, sulforaphane from broccoli sprout seeds, EGCG from green tea extract. Those are all known to induce this. But so does CBD, and that's why you get effects like cannabidiol protects liver from binge alcohol-induced steatosis. by mechanisms including blah, blah, blah. Apparently I irritated someone there. So, why? By mechanisms inducing chemoprotection from the inside. So you can pretend you see the next slide. It's really the same thing. No, something went off over there. I'm still connected. It's that guy, you just turn it back on. He tripped something. So, up there, mystically, is a paper that says differential gene transcription from different cannabinoids, and it's looking at genes going up and down. So, when you're healing someone, you want to turn certain things up and certain things down, and compare THC and CBD. So, CBD was broadly genoactive. It upregulated over 600 genes. I'm not in charge. I need to get there. Other way. There it goes. That's all right. I'm cool under stress. It's the one-to-one. All right, it's all cool. Go away now. It does. It needs a better endocannabinoid tone in there. All right, differential transcription. So, you know, CBD is not the lesser brother to THC. It's setting the stage for THC to work. It's setting the stage for your endocannabinoids to fill in. And so they looked at how it works with different genes. And they found, as I was just saying, 500 different genes that are downregulated by CBD versus only 29 by THC. 650 genes upregulated by CBD versus only 36 by THC. THC is a receptor-mediated activity, and CBD is receptor modifying, but it's massively gene, it's transcriptionally active, it's changing which genes you're invoking. And this is the genes all around glutathione, which are antioxidant defense and repair genes. These were genes that, when they're recklessly invoked, create inflammatory responses that are damaging. When you have inflammation, you want a very controlled inflammation. You want anti-inflammatory and pro-inflammatory processes happening at the same time in a balance. And what often happens, especially with endotoxin or lipopolysaccharide, is they get unbalanced. And these genes are part of, when these are out of control, are part of that unbalance. And these are downregulated or brought into control by CBD. And they're saying the effects of CBD on these genes underlies the potential benefits of CBD in the treatment of neuroinflammatory diseases. So it's creating a control around inflammatory processes. That's part of, that's what we think of when we think of it for pain. We think, oh, it's because it's an anti-inflammatory. But what do you need for chronic pain? You need anti-inflammatory activity, and to stop chronic pain, you need tone to the GABA side of the neurotransmitter system. Without GABA tone, the pain receptors stay wide open. Pain receptors are actually naturally wide open because the nature of the world is painful. And that's not just a joke, it's unfortunate. And it's up to you to be cool enough to handle the pain of the world and have enough GABA so that you can shut it off and deal with it. And when you're under chronic pain, you just get wound up like this, and then you've got glutamate processes going on, and it's just cranky. And so you've got to be able to chill out, get into that parasympathetic autonomic space, and then the pain can turn off. So you need the GABA glutamate balance, which you get from CBD, as well as the anti-inflammatory effect, which you get from CBD. And then you've got these vanillin receptors that are starting to play into it too, which are desensitizers to pain. In fact, vanillin receptors are the ones that capsaicin hits. We have capsaicin patches and cream for pain. So, summing it all up, CBD, think about what it does on its own. It's stabilizing neuroinflammatory processes, bringing a balance to the sympathetic and parasympathetic, balance to the GABA glutamate side. It's blocking NF-kappa B and other pro-inflammatory pathways and upregulating the anti-inflammatory chemoprotective properties. And so I say, this is part of, we also sell a herbal adaptogen blend that we have people take along with the CBD as a whole package. And so for neurodetox, we use phosphatidylcholine, B-complex, glutathione, and the adaptogen blend. If you go onto the Quicksilver website, you will find all of these different products. And actually, we had a 10% off sale for this webinar, and if you copy down that link, you can go there and start an account. And if you're a doctor, you'll be able to go in and get a wholesale, which is half off of retail. And if you're a patient, you'll just go in and buy a retail, it'll be 10% off no matter what. And these 3 products are included in that sale. So I'd like to take any questions, and since you guys all know Joe Cohen, maybe I could hand over to Joe Cohen and let him tell you what kind of responses he sees with just using CBD.
Sure. So I was a real skeptic, as you mentioned earlier, about CBD-only products, because when we recommended CBD-only products, we weren't getting any really good results, and patients wouldn't stay with it because it wasn't working very well. And there were a variety of different delivery systems that we were recommending to patients, and I just kind of gave up on the idea. Basically, we started using this, recommending it to patients, and I started very slowly and wanted to get response from patients to see what was going on. We have a lot of patients who come to our office who do not, first thing out of their mouth is, I don't want to get high. We have a lot of elderly patients, we have a lot of patients who have to work during the day, have to get through their day, but don't want any psychoactivity, have to drive, do whatever. So I tried this out, and we cannot keep this on the shelf. I just bought a box from you yesterday, it's gone. We had to bring in another box today because we can't hold this stuff. People are getting back to us and saying this stuff really works. So I just want to say that the liposomal delivery system is amazing when it comes to CBD, and we're seeing it with our patients. So good work.
Thank you.
Great work.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask you about a product that I found, and Greg can speak to this also, and it is this product out of California that's called CBG water. Looks just like water.
God!
And they said, and the reason I bring it
And there's no CBD in it. And I even talked to the guys that make
It's a
it.
nano.
I'm like, oh, come on, yeah. They made it so small, it disappeared from this universe and manifested over in some other nebula somewhere. We went out and had that analyzed. There wasn't a shred of CBD. It also says there's B12 and CoQ10, which are red and orange respectively, and there's no color to it. So I don't know what the hell they're doing. Those are the guys that make isodiol, which is a nice CBD crystal. I don't know what the hell they're doing. So there's no CBD in it.
We also carry your product in our dispensary. And how do we get that point across to the customer? Because you're using less of a dosage.
Yeah, and getting more effect.
Exactly.
We can get you some literature with those PK studies. I mean, you can say, hey, look, GW Pharma, that's the pharmaceutical. Look, you got 6-fold higher bioavailability.
Can I address
Well,
that?
that'll speak to the patients, right?
I tell the patients that it simply doesn't go through the liver to be broken down, that it is simply more available. And I did something very radical. I had my own bottle, and I said, try 2 sprays.
Oh yeah, you keep some spoons there, some plastic spoons in a bottle, and you just have them take it and then go walk around the store.
And I said, bear in mind this is only half a dose. From that time on, I'm telling you, literally, no exaggeration, every person who tried it walked out with a bottle.
Yeah.
Now, I hate anecdotal stories, but
But they work. But you got data there. But you look at the data, you're like, cool. You take it, you're like, oh, cool. You know, it's a different kind of cool.
So my son had open heart surgery a week ago on bypass, 5 hours. I was this far from an ulcer. I wish I was exaggerating. That was the only pharmaceutical I honest to God.
I believe in it, it's just, I'll be honest with you, it's hard for us to get past the price point.
Yeah, well,
So unique.
six,
Yeah.
so divide the price in 6 and see if you get the same 300 milligrams for that price. Which you're not going to, but if,
I just don't think I'm
looking at the
explaining
graph,
it
does
right
that-
to them. It's
yeah, I know,
wrong.
and that's something that we're kind of searching for. In California, we had a thought leader there who's leading it all, and he just started with the people who come to him for advice, and they say, you try this, and everybody that's tried it, works great, and then they get a following. But you got these random people coming in, and it seems kind of esoteric to them. Do you think that they would respond to looking at an uptake graph?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get you, Philip, if you could get them some literature that they can have there.
We don't have a graph here, but we have some literature on the table.
Yeah, we have some literature there, but we have to do one for the dispensary owners with update graphs, and we'll laminate them and send them to you. And you can just be like, boom, look at that. And that's why it costs more. And then it's really just getting past that first trial. Once they try it, then they're good.
So the next question is, let's just use a round number. Say they're on 50 milligrams of a CBD edible. What would they need on something like this then?
Between 1/6 and 1/10. So if they're on 50 milligrams, I'd have them on 9 to 12 milligrams. Probably 6 might do it, but I like those a little higher.
But we definitely have some customers that love it, and they come in and they purchase it.
Cool. Any other questions?
All right, well, let's thank Dr. Shade for